YouTube, and welcome to the crash course of Adobe Photoshop Lightroom, where we are going to edit some photos and make it look fantastic. Okay, anyway, so let us start, and for that, this is my Adobe Photoshop Lightroom window where no projects are open. So like to start up with new project, I'm going to go over to File, okay, and unlike other softwares, we actually have to click on New Catalog over here instead of New File or new workspace. So let's click on New Catalog, okay, and let us choose the folder where I have saved my pictures. So I actually made a folder on my TutorTube drive right here inside pictures. So I'm going to save the catalog file just inside the folder so that it'll be easier for me. Now, just for the sample sake, just for the preview sake, I just have 2 pictures over there. Here you can do this with a lot of pictures, so there's no limit on how many pictures you can choose. So now I'm going to name the file to TutorTube, and let's just say TutorTube Lightroom, okay? So now let's press save, and the Lightroom software restarts, and there you have the new catalog to work on with. So now the first thing want you to notice is there are a lot of modules in Adobe Photoshop Lightroom. For example, there's the library module, develop, map, book, slideshow, and so forth, right? We are just going to focus on the develop module, as that is what Lightroom is mostly about. The rest are actually support modules which will actually help you to manage photos better and does not really matter for editing. So now I'm going to start up, I'm going to open up those pictures which I want to edit and enhance. So I'm going to go over to File. Since I've already created a new catalog, I can import the pictures now. So I'm going to go over to File. Then I'm going to click on Import Photos and Videos. For videos, it's not really great. So like, let's just stick to photos. For videos, we have to use other editing softwares. So to edit it, we actually can just do it with photos. So now let's just import photos. And now what I can do is I can go over to my drive right from here at the left, go to pictures, and I can select the pictures I want. Okay, select those ones, select the ones I want. I can even preview this if you can see this. So let me just go to pictures, select them both, or I can just click all photos over here and then import the photo. Okay, so now I have these on my library module. So like I said, I'm just going to go over to my develop module. So I'm going to work with the picture right here. It's a picture of a scenery I shot when I travel. So I'm going to go to the develop module to make it look much better. So I'm going to go over to develop module, and as you can see, as I do that, now the picture pops up, and I can click on that once to zoom it in. I can scrub it around, and I can click on it again to zoom it out. So the magic of editing this photo actually lies on the right corner over here. Of course, I can use the preset as the left, but that is a preset that is not really editing the photos. So I'm going to start up with this thing called basic right here. And as I expand the basic options, you can actually see some sliders. So the trick is just start up with the first and end with the last. Okay, so for example, let me play around with the thing called temperature right here. If I were to drag this out to the left, it becomes more bluish and gives you that cool tone. And if I were to drag it to the right, it gives you more of that yellowish tone. So I can drag it as much as I want. So I want this to have a really cool tone to it, to make it seem as if it is cold outside. Then I am going to move around with the tint. That will give me a greenish and a reddish tint again. So I'm going to keep this at a place. This is actually a personal preference, so you find out your sweet spot. Now for the exposure part, since this picture, I find this picture a bit dark, you can increase out the tone or decrease out the tone if you want to make it darker. So I'm going to increase out the tone. If I were to mess up the settings, I can simply double click on the slider over here, and that'll bring it back to the default spot. So I'm just going to increase the picture a bit. And while you do this, do make sure that you keep your eyes on the histogram right here. If you do it too much, then you can lose some details. No, let's not do that. So I'm going to bring it about here so that I do not lose the details. I can also increase the contrast to make it more contrasty. There's for the difference between black and white. Okay, let me do that. And now I have the basic correction. So if I want to see the before and after, I can hit the backslash key on my keyboard. So if I do that, this is the before, and again I'll hit the backslash key on my keyboard, and if I do that, you get the after. So before and after. I can also compare it just by clicking on these icons right here. So if I were to click this, you can see the before and after right from here. So as you can see, there's the before and after, and I can also like move it around. I can click and drag it to actually see the difference in detail like this as well. So you can really see the difference right there. So I'm going to disable this, and then I'm going to play around with the other settings. So there's the highlight over here. So what the highlight actually does is it'll just play around with the bright parts of the image. So let's say this is the bright part, right? So maybe this is too bright for me, so I can bring the highlight down, and you can see only this part actually fades down so that there's more detail and this becomes more even. So I'm going to bring the highlight totally down so that I can see the details, and maybe I can bring the shadow up so that the shadow areas are a bit brighter. So now just the shadow areas just controls the darker parts, while the highlight areas controls the upper parts. So I'm going to increase the shadow areas a bit. I can further adjust the brighter areas and darker areas by the whites and blacks over here. The whites control the brighter areas. I can bring it down even more, or I can bring up the black areas. But this is all personal preference. So if you were to look at before and after, it is quite different already. So this is the before and after. Okay, so clarity is for the sharpness of the image. So if I were to bring up the clarity, you can actually see that the picture becomes very sharp, while if I bring it down, it becomes quite soft. So I want to bring out the clarity just a bit to make it a bit more sharp. That's it. Okay. So now there's the vibrance and saturation. Okay. Saturation is a very, very common effect. If I were to increase the saturation a bit, you can actually see that the colors just bloated up. Okay. So let's say you can see in the picture there are some areas which lacks colors and some areas which actually has pretty fine colors. So what vibrance does is it only focuses on the weak areas where there is less color, so it bloats the color of that area only. So I'm going to bring out the vibrance. So as you can see, this part, this red board and this blue board, which is already colorful, remains unaffected, while if I bring up the color a bit, there's some blue tint in the sky and so forth. So I can bloat that out to my personal preference to get to the spot where I like. So I can bring down the saturation a bit, and if you can see now that we have a pretty bluish sky, which is much more pleasant to look at. So this is the before. You can actually see the difference already, right? You can see that the details have popped up. So maybe this picture is too blue, so I can go back up and then readjust the temperature according to my personal preference. So now I'm going to contract the basic settings. Let me go over to the tone curve, where I can again work out with the highlights, lights, darks, and shadows. I can work directly on the tone as well. Just for the sake of easiness, I'm going to use this one right here. So I can increase this out. You can see the sky is bloating out over here, so I do not want that. I do not want to go too further. Let me go with the lights. Okay, let me go with the lights. Get it to around the sweet spots. It's all personal preference, like I just said. Increase the shadows if you want, but in this case, like, you do not really need that. Okay, so you can do it like this. You can directly work on with the curves as well, while the curves below here controls the shadows, the curves up here controls the highlights. So you can actually see the text is getting highlighted over there. So you can also go over here and then directly play around with the histogram. Just click and drag and you can see the difference. So let me just press Ctrl Z so that I can go back. So now you can simply play around with it however you like. So just for the sake of easiness, I'll be using this one. Now, after you finish with the tone curve, you control the hue, saturation, and luminance control. So let's say, for example, I do not want the red to be very, very sharp. So let me just turn on all. So now what I can do is I can move just the red, and if you can see, once I move the slider over here, I can actually change just the color of the boat. So that is wicked. So I can control various parts of the picture actually. So now let's say you're shooting a black and white photo instead. So instead of color photos, you're shooting a black and white right out of the camera. Then you cannot edit much. So what is expected for you to do is shoot a color photo in with your camera, and then turn it to black and white with your Lightroom software, so you can actually color different parts of the images. So for example, this red, right? Now this picture looks black and white, but I can control the amount of brightness of each area. So let's say I can control the amount of red, and you can see that I can control the brightness over here. I can control the orange. You can see this changing. I can change the greens. I can change the blues, right? So you can see I can control individual portion of the software if I do that. So shoot pictures in color and bring it into black and white later. But anyways, for this lesson, we are going to stick to color photos. So I'm going to change the red color a bit, okay? I'll make it a bit pinkish. Maybe orange, maybe I want to change that a bit as well. Maybe that around that part. The yellows, you can change that out as well. Let me make it more yellow, okay, so that it stands out. The green areas, maybe, right? Okay, not much. Aqua color, not much. The blue sky, okay. Now it is actually looking purple like an alien planet. I do not want to do that. I want to make it more blue. Okay, I want to go to that sweet spot where it looks all blue. Okay, the purple. Okay, it's quite looks good. Magenta. If you move it too much, it might start looking unnatural. So do be careful about that as well. So you can also control the individual saturation of colors. For example, if you blot down the red, so only the red portion seems black and white. So I can increase, or let me decrease the saturation of the red. Let me increase for the greens maybe, so that the background stands out a bit. Increase for the aqua colors, and then the blue colors, and so forth. All right. So now if you were to see the before and after, you can see there's a huge difference in it, isn't it? There's much more detail in the edited photo. Okay, so luminance again stands for brightness. So you can have high brightness for red or less brightness for red. Okay, so let me have high brightness for orange because I want this to start out and stand out as well. High brightness for green, maybe like aqua, and then blue. Okay, so I can control the luminance according to my personal preference again. So now we have played around with the hue, saturation, and luminance. So I can also click on hue just to access the hue, saturation just to access the saturation, and luminance just to access the illumination part. So I can just contract this out, and then let me go to split toning now. That's the third option over here, and you can see I got more options. Just play around with the sliders to see what it does. So now for this to work, I actually have to choose a color from here. So I'm going to go over here and choose a color, right? And you can see it actually changes the tint of the picture for me. So I can actually choose a color I want, and then increase and decrease the saturation to give the picture that tone of color. Maybe I want to, let's say I want to make the tone of the picture red. So I can increase the saturation to increase the tone or decrease the saturation. So you can choose a color that you like. So I can simply choose a color that I like and then increase the tone for that. But I do not really want to play around with highlights. Okay, the highlights actually plays around with the bright areas of the picture, while the shadows actually is for the dark areas of the picture. So I can have a different highlight and a different shadow areas to have a cool effect like this. So like make it more like a classic picture. But anyways, I do not want these kind of effects, or I want to add in some colors. I'm going to leave that to default, everything into default. Okay. So now this is split toning. You can use it if you want to use it. I'm not going to use it right here. Now let us go on to the detail portion, which is very, very important. If I were to zoom in this picture, you can actually see a lot of noise over here. Most of these are color noise. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to reduce this noise. This is actually out of a kit lens, so it is not really that great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the amount. Okay, this is the amount of sharpening, if you can see. So if I were to increase the amount of sharpening, you can actually see sharpening right there. So now before I work on the sharpening, I want to work on with noise reduction. So let me increase the luminance noise reduction. And if I do that, you can actually see that there's less noise, less of a noise. Okay, so this is without the luminance noise, and this is with the luminance noise. You can see a huge difference already. So I do not want to do it too much. Okay, so I can keep the details. Okay, so I can keep the details well, or I can like just exclude the details, and you can see that there are no more details. So I do want some details over there because that is necessary in a picture. I do want to see the ripples and everything, so I want to keep the details. Maybe I want to have a contrast noise reduction. Okay, so that you get more of a noise reduction over here. You can actually see some color noises as well. So I want to play around with that, increase the color noise. Okay, so you can see that this is without the color noise reduction. Like you can see colors blotting out everywhere. So if I were to just drag it up, now I do not really have any color noise, so the picture is quite looking good. So now increase the details. If you want to add in the details, you can increase the details. You can also increase the smoothness level, so get that smoothness. Okay, so I have it all the way up to 100 because I have really noisy picture right over here. So I can also increase the sharpness if I want to. So I can add in the sharpness. Just make sure that you do not bring out too much noise to it. Okay, so I can increase the sharpness, adjust the radius according to your detail, and then you got a very good picture. So now if you were to see the before, okay, it's pretty noisy, right? Okay, and the after, there's a huge difference in the picture already. So I can just click and zoom out, and we have a very clear picture now, and that's thanks to this detail. Now let us go towards the lens correction section, where I can actually choose which camera I saw this picture from, and it'll do some automatic correction for me. So I'm going to go over to enable profile correction, and then let's choose the make. I used a Canon camera, and then the model of the lens I used was 18 to 55, which is the kit lens. So once I do that, you can actually see this is the before. It corrected the distortion my camera lens actually gave to me. So now we have a very, very perfect picture. So that's it. I can also increase and decrease the distortion amount if you want to do it manually, but I do not really want to do it. You can also adjust the vignetting level, so you have darker edges at the end. So anyways, since I do not want any of those, I'm going to just skip that. So you can also go over here and then let's say increase and decrease the amount of hues and everything else, but that is not really necessary. You can just choose the lens type just here. So now let us contract this and increase the effects, and you can see that if I were to increase the amount, it actually has a white vignette, and if I decrease, it actually has a black vignette. So if you want vignettes, you can actually change this point over here. So now if I were to bring it down and change the midpoint, you can see that I can decrease the vignette or increase the vignette as per my wish. So you can increase the roundness of it, right? You can change the roundness, you can change the feather level, or just make it just like this, like a classical picture. You can increase the highlights, right? Can you see that, right? You can change the vignette, you can increase the grain, you can also add in noise. Okay, over here add in the noise, okay, to make it more like an old picture if you want that out. Okay, so I do not want to add in noise, so this is actually useful for some effects that you want to get, but for my case I do not want any of these, so I'm going to return each and every one of these in their default position. All right, so now finally we got camera calibration, where we can further move around the color finally. So there's the tint. If I want to add in some tint, primary, saturation, okay, so I can actually play around with that if I want to. All right, let me increase the saturation a bit. Maybe I want to change the color a bit. I do not really have that color. Okay. Okay, that's just too much. Okay. So at the end, maybe I really think that I need a bit more color for this picture. So let me just click on that. And then, so I'm going to go, I can go back onto basics for that. And then let me increase the vibrance. So because I actually want the color to even out, and then decrease the saturation. So I have an even color throughout the picture. So let me decrease the vibrance a bit more. Okay, so increase the saturation to get that sweet spot. And then yes, exposure, I need a bit more exposure. I want the picture to be brighter. Okay, so this is how we can actually play around with the picture, play around with all the settings, and actually turn a boring picture into a nice one. So this is the before. As you can see, this, it's quite dull, it's right out of the camera, and once I add in all the effects, it actually turns out beautiful. And you can do this with any photos. I'm using a regular JPEG photo here. If you have work with a raw photo, then you have more power to it. So you can even crop it. So I have some more options here at the top. I can also crop it. I can click on it, just crop it, okay, till the picture I want. Let's say I just want this, just press enter. Then you get the amount of picture you want. If you were to click on this again, you can get back the portion that you lost and press enter. So you're not really deleting the portion out. And there's a spot removal section which actually works like the Photoshop pimple removal tool. That's the healing brush tool. So let's say I do not want this spot over here, so I can simply drag on it, right? And then you can see that I can remove the spot right there. So now anyways, I want to delete this out. Just click on it and delete it. I can simply click on it and delete it if I don't want to. So there's the red eye correction to remove the red eyes. And so actually for now, I actually want to use this. This is the gradient tool. So I can actually draw out a gradient. Let's say I want to draw out from top to bottom. All right. So you can actually see that the top portion is bright. Okay. So I want to maybe change the temperature of it. Maybe decrease the exposure. Okay. You can see that now there's a bit of a gradient over my picture. So I can choose the temperature of my gradient. So maybe I want to make it warmer if I want to, right? So or I can make it cooler. It's according to my personal preference, really. So I can use this gradient to actually play around with this, and I can click on this little dot to move around the gradient as well. So I can click on the dot, press the delete key to delete the gradient. So now let me just add it from the corner right here, the gradient. Okay, let me just add it from this corner. Okay, so and then decrease the exposure a bit, just make it a bit more warmer at the end so that you have a kind of a gradient right there. Okay, not too warm, just a bit warm. All right. Okay, that's it. Like I said, I can drag it around just like that, and then I got a bit of a tint over here at the left. Okay, so I can do that with this. I can add in more than one gradient. I can simply drag it, another one from right over here. And let's say here I want to give a bit of a blue tint. So I'm going to go over here, change it out. So you can see that's just too much. Okay, so I can add in a gradient to make the picture look interesting. I can also adjust the exposure, clarity for the gradient part. So even that works out of the gradient. So you can also like decrease the sharpness of that area if you want it. So if you want to remove the blurriness, if you want a blurred effect at the end, so you can also work around with the sharpness as well. You can also add in some noise and so forth. You got all the options over here which you can actually play around with. So you got more options here like this. You can simply play around with it. But the basic thing is you got to know all of the options in order to actually play around with a lot of things and then make the picture look beautiful. So this is quite easy. So this is our final picture. I have already edited out everything, and then I got the picture I want. So this is my final picture. Okay, this is the before and this is the after. So now let us edit our second picture, which is this one. And I do not want to go through all of it again because it is tedious. So now what I'm simply going to do is I'm going to copy the effects of this photo and then paste them onto here. So I can simply press what? Copy on the bottom left right here. Then it asks me which of the effects I want to copy. So I can, let's say I do not want the basic tone, so I do not have to select that. So I'm going to check all just for the sake of copying. Then copy it. Go to the other picture. If you have a lot of other pictures, you can hold control and then select both of the pictures as well. So in my case, I only have one other picture. So I'm going to click on that and click on paste. And then I have my effects applied onto this photo. So you can actually see the before and after. There's like a huge difference already. Okay, I just simply need some brightness, I guess. So I'm going to go over to exposure, increase the oh, that's too much. Okay, and wow, that's actually a great improvement, isn't it? So that's the before and that's the after, right? Okay, there's a lot of improvement right away without much work. So this is the power of Photoshop. You can also turn on the sync so that if I change this photos, the changes will happen in this photos as well. So, or simply, if I do not want to mess around with the settings, let's go to the presets, and you can see on the left you can actually choose. Click on the effects, and you'll get the effect you want. Okay, simply like choose an effect. Okay, let's make it antique. All right, so there's an antique effect for you. But anyways, I know how to do it manually, so I do not really want to play around with it. This is what I like. Okay, so let me redo that. Okay, and then redo, paste, redo, and then okay. So now I want to export out these photos. I want to save it and share it with my friends, right? Okay, so now I want to select both of the photos. Let me just drag and select them both, or sit and select them, and then go to file, and let's go to export. If you were to just save this out, and this actually saves in the catalog itself, it does not really generate any photos by itself. So I'm going to go over to export. So I can choose the folder I want. So now here it says export to, and I can choose same folder as original photo, so that it actually exports the same photo. So I can rename the name of the subfolder. So it can be tutor tube edited. All right, so I can simply choose that and then press export. So now what that does is it exports my photo as a JPEG form. So I'm going to go over to my PC and then navigate to my TutorTube drive. Let's go to the pictures, and you can see that there's TutorTube edited, and I got my this photo still seems to be processing, so I can preview it with my Windows Photo Preview, and you can actually see the picture right here. So this is the picture that has been edited out of the Lightroom. So now this is the other picture. Okay, this cannot display. Maybe this I need to restart it. And you can see, like if I were to open it with Windows Photo Preview, you can actually see the picture. So this is the picture of the bird that we exported from Lightroom, and this is the picture of the scenery. So you can see how easy that is. And like I said, if you were to work with raw photos, you have more power over your photos. So if you got an SLR camera, then do be sure to shoot raw photos for the editing. So anyways, this is it for the crash course of Adobe Lightroom. Hope you learned something, and keep tuned as I'm going to upload some more video tutorials and other crash courses as well. And meanwhile, check out the After Effects tutorial series and learn some animation. So do be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe.